Clouded and stunted the murder investigation of a 4-year-old boy from 1957 from moving forward. A name.
When people think about the boy in the box, a profound sadness is felt.
Joseph Augustus Zarelli. The child lived in the area of 61st and Market in West Philadelphia, but never grew up. His life ended just weeks after his 4th birthday. He never graduated high school or went to college. Instead, he was left on a rural roadside in Fox Chase on a cold winter day in 1957.
Side of a cardboard box.
Sources say the toddler's lifeless body was placed in a bassinet box. It was long believed the box came from a department store in Upper Darby, which isn't far from where police say the child lived. Investigators declined to identify next of kin, but were told siblings on both his maternal and paternal sides are still in the area.
In another list of top 10 most wanted criminals who have never been caught, there is no doubt that the case of the boy in the box would be among the top 3. It's such a baffling mystery, but the weirdest part about it all is just how often it pops up on these kind of lists. Even in movies, the boy in the box is the go-to unidentified person. Why? We'll get into that today. But first, let's talk about the case itself. It was early on Christmas morning in 1957 when police officers in Philadelphia responded to a call reporting a small box left outside of the 62nd police station. At the time, the station was being renovated and officers were staying at a nearby location. When they opened the box, they found a 4-year-old child who was still breathing. The boy was immediately taken to the hospital, where he was placed in intensive care. He had multiple wounds on his body and his head was covered in bandages. He died from his injuries on February 18, 1958, without ever regaining consciousness. Despite an extensive investigation, nobody came forward with any information on the identity of the child or who may have done this to him. To date, the case remains unsolved and the boy's true name is unknown. He became known instead by the name given to him by the coroner, America's Unknown Child. The first thing we should point out is that the idea of America as unknown child doesn't actually refer only to the boy in the box, but rather every unidentified person who dies in the United States each year. That said, the boy in the box has become the de facto representative of unidentified victims because his case was particularly bizarre. For starters, the box that he was found in was like something out of a horror movie. It was a large wooden crate, almost like a coffin, with nails driven into the interior to stop the boy from trying to escape. A padlock was placed over the top, though it wasn't locked. The box itself was also wrapped in several layers of newspaper, making it look even more like a present. If anyone walking by hadn't noticed the movement inside the box, they may have picked it up and delivered it to whoever was supposed to receive it. What makes it even more disturbing is that the box was left outside the police station during renovations, so the officers were aware that the building wasn't occupied. Why would someone choose that particular location to abandon a child who clearly needed urgent medical attention? And who put the child in the box and why? Was it an act of kindness or something more sinister? The boy in the box is often depicted wearing a tuxedo in artwork and photographs. This is based on the fact that he was found wearing a sports jacket, a shirt with a collar, and a hat. Most people assume he must have been dressed for some special occasion, which led to the tuxedo interpretation. Unfortunately, this isn't the only detail that has been misrepresented over the years. The image most people have of the boy in the box is actually based on a composite sketch that was made using an inaccurate description. The artist who created the sketch used the word Oriental to describe the boy's appearance, which was later discovered to mean Asian. The sketch thus depicts the boy with almond-shaped eyes and dark hair, when in reality, he was most likely white. He did have dark hair, though. His build was slender, and he weighed only 31 pounds when he was found. He was around 4 years old, but it is not clear if he was born in 1954 or 1955. Nobody knows his real name or anything about his life before that fateful Christmas morning. The only lead investigators had was the clothes he was wearing, which didn't have any identifying marks on them. However, one of the buttons on the jacket had the letters HM sewn onto it. At the time, this was believed to stand for the Hart, Schaffner and Marks Clothing Company, but the manufacturer had no record of ever making a button like that. In 2019, a man named Lawrence Farrell came forward and claimed that the button actually stood for half. Moon Shirts, a company his father started in the 1930s. He said the shirts were sold exclusively in the Philadelphia area, but no one seems to remember them. Unfortunately, Mr. Farrell waited 64 years to come forward with this information, and by then it was too late to do anything about it. No one can say for sure if the button really did come from a Half Moon shirt, or if the boy in the box was even wearing one. In addition to the button, 2 men reported seeing a woman with a red wagon pushing a similar box through the streets of Philadelphia around the time the box was abandoned. She was described as being between 25 and 35 years old with sandy brown hair and freckles. However, the witnesses couldn't agree on what she looked like or what she was wearing. This could possibly indicate that the women had seen the child's mother, though it's hard to say considering the sketchy details and lack of a positive identification. There are dozens of theories surrounding the boy in the box case, but none of them have been proven. There are no suspects, and there is no evidence that police have managed to collect over the past 65 years. Considering the length of time and the limited amount of information available, chances are the case will never be solved. That might be why the boy in the box keeps showing up in things like top 10 unsolved mysteries lists. The case is so well known that it's practically synonymous with the term unidentified victim. That's not surprising given the bizarre circumstances of the crime and the age of the victim. There are several other cases involving unidentified children, but they don't have the same impact as the boy in the box. Some of that has to do with the marketing of the story, but some of it is definitely due to the lasting effects of the case. When thinking of the boy in the box, most people picture a happy ending. That's not the case, of course, but it is easy to imagine a scenario where the perpetrator is brought to justice and the boy gets the peace he deserves. Unfortunately, the chances of that happening now are slim to none. There are just too many unknowns. Some people have gone so far as to claim the boy in the box is a government experiment gone wrong, the victim of alien abduction, or even a spirit who haunts the city of brotherly love. None of those theories seem very likely to me, but stranger things have happened. For example, there is a girl who went missing in 1976. Her name is Asha Degree. She was last seen getting into a blue van, after which she vanished without a trace. For years, Asha's mother believed she was alive and being held against her will somewhere. She even released several tapes where she pleaded for her daughter to get in touch. In 2019, Asha's remains were found in a wooded area near the South Carolina-Georgia state line. Investigators believe she was killed shortly after she disappeared, which means she was only 9 years old when she died. The person responsible has never been identified. That's not the only strange case of a missing child. There was a boy named Tim McLean who disappeared from a mall parking lot in 1981. His mother, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, was in the middle of loading groceries into their car when someone took Tim and drove off. He was never seen again. Just 2 years ago, Tim's sister came forward with new information. She said their mother had told her a horrifying story about Tim's disappearance, claiming that she had been carrying twins. According to the story, after she loaded the groceries into the car, she turned back to grab something from the shopping cart. When she saw a man reaching into the back seat to grab Tim, their mother tried to grab the boy, but she was delayed. The man drove off and she was left holding only Tim's teddy bear. Police searched the family's house and found nothing that connected Tim to the murder. In 2021, however, forensic teams discovered the body of a young boy in a shallow grave in British Columbia. DNA testing confirmed it was Tim McLean, but the circumstances surrounding his death remain a mystery. You might be wondering why I am going into such great detail about these cases when the subject of this channel is supposedly cryptozoology. The reason I bring them up is to make a comparison with the way they've been handled versus the boy in the box. These cases received little media attention over the years. Unlike the unidentified child, whose face has been plastered across magazine covers and TV screens, people might not know who Tim McLean is or what happened to Asha Degree, but they will always know the story of the boy in the box. The boy in the box case has been featured on every major network, along with several documentaries. There are books, podcasts, and websites dedicated to finding out the truth. It's been a staple of local Philadelphia lore since the day the boy died. Given all this exposure, you might think the case would have been solved by now. Unfortunately, all the publicity has done is inspire more copycats. Since the mid-1950s, there have been at least 20 similar cases of unidentified children being abandoned in cities throughout the U.S. In many of those cases, the boxes were left outside police stations or firehouses, just like with the boy in the box. All these incidents gave rise to the legend of America's unknown child, a concept that has since spread to other countries. Similar cases have been reported in Canada, Mexico, and the UK, where a boy was found dead in an abandoned railway carriage in Liverpool in 1956. Now, I don't want to make light of these situations, especially given the outcome in most of them. but I do think it's important to point out the copycat factor. When news of the boy in the box broke, every major publication ran the story. That gave people an idea of what could happen if they committed a similar crime. They could become infamous or perhaps even gain notoriety. That might be why there have been so many cases over the years. People think they're paying homage to the original victim, but all they're doing is reminding everyone of the tragedy. I do hope we eventually find out what happened to the boy in the box, but I don't think we need to keep talking about the case over and over again. It is time to let the legend go and focus instead on solving these crimes once and for all. Thanks for watching. What do you think happened to the boy in the box? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my others, and always remember to question everything.